Yeah. So, what is most serious things when you getting into startups world?
Um, they're kind of two uh, two two separate things that you need to take care of. There's a lot of practical, probably for most people boring stuff, but you need to get a reasonable hand on that stuff. And what I'm thinking about is the whole stuff about setting up a business, making sure that you have your bookkeeping done, making sure that you have the right registry, that you have all the stuff that is needed to run a business, having that taken care of at some point. As soon as you start having some revenue, at the end of the year you need to do your bookkeeping, and doing that along the way is much easier than trying to catch up in the end of the year. So there's a lot of boring stuff you have to do, and my advice would be use some money on having somebody do it for you, so it's done professionally and you can get advice from these guys, because it take away a lot of concerns which are distracting you from building whatever service or startup you're building. So that's one thing. And the other thing is, biggest advice is getting something out there, get your product out in the hands of your users to gain experience and feedback. So much better to put on to bring out a really simple version of your dream, and then make sure to iterate fast, so that you build on new features or fix the bugs that might be there. So getting something online, if it's online, or getting something in the hands of your users really fast, that's really important.
And how about building your product, your team? How that is important, and how to choose right people?
Yeah, that's a good question, because one thing that's for sure is that you will have hard times in the beginning. There'll probably be a lot of work and very little money. So you have to find somebody that you can work close together with. And one way of my kind of quick rule of thumb when I join something new is, I think in my head, would I go on a holiday with this guy or this girl? And if it's possible, I actually try to go on a holiday or a long weekend away somewhere, because when you first meet people, it can be hard to judge, okay, what will happen when things get tough. But if you go on a holiday and you're away in a remote house by the beach or whatever, if you're actually there all the time, and you can, what we have been doing sometimes is, when we do this, we go away to talk about the project. So we already kind of start to see what happens, and this is a good fit. So I think it's more important that you're able to work close together in the hard times with the ones you start up with, than their actual skills. Of course, you need the skills together in the team, but you can always hire somebody freelance to do whatever the founding people are not able to.
And for example, when you start do something, you always think that your idea is best, and you will rule all the world in a few minutes. But usually it's not so.
Yeah.
So how to motivate yourself and your team?
Yeah, that's exactly how it is, and that's also in line of that one with getting something in the hands of your user, because it turns out that your idea probably wasn't the best in the world. So 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 the, before you get your idea tested and kind of straightened out and finding the stuff that you haven't thought about or you should do differently, the better. And one of the hard things about this is that in the beginning you will have a lot of trouble, and the feedback you're getting will be errors and bugs, and people thinking you should do things differently. So you get a lot of negative response that you need to handle somehow. And I think the way to overcome that is that you are teamed up with somebody, so you kind of get in a good team that it's us against the world. But we know in the end that we'll win because our idea is still a very good idea. So it's important to have your startup team with you. And the other thing is that the team together have to realize that, yeah, that's right, we know we put out a crappy product at the beginning, but in the end we'll do the right product. So keeping in mind that this is a timeline. Right now we're just in step one. So that's a way to motivate yourself, that you still think in the end we have this glorious idea and we'll get there somehow. But right now we need to clear out these bumps in the road.
And let's talk about your experience. You built a startup called Selfit.com.
Just Eat, yeah.
Just Eat.com. And how was it? I mean, what was the best thing you did in the startup and the worst ones?
Some of the best thing we did was, besides being a good team, we were three guys hands-on all the time. But beside that, we had in the circle around people helping us, and to get that help, we had to. The only thing we could pay with was equity, so we were giving away parts of the company. But it was a really good decision, and one of my co-founders, one of his saying is that he'd rather own half of 50% of a success than 100% of a failure. So if it means that you get to success by giving away some of your company, then you're still better off in the end. So one of the things that we kind of outsourced this way was all the bookkeeping and handling all that kind of lawyer bookkeeping thing, because we didn't know how to do it, and we didn't. It would just distract us from what we were supposed to do. So don't be too afraid giving away some of your company. Just make sure you give it away to somebody giving something back to you. That's one of the good things we did. One of the bad things we did was we started our very first way of our very first business model. We should have, with a little bit of research, we would have found out that this would never work, and that the whole thing was way too complicated for our business customers to get started, because we wanted them to set up a completely PC system with a screen and fax machine and a printer and a modem and all kind of stuff that made everything expensive. And to cover that expense, we have been lining up with a leasing company so they could lease the stuff. But the whole setup was really, really complicated and really hard to sell to these restaurants who were going to use it. And if we had just once pretended that we have everything ready and went to 2 restaurants and present this, we would have found out this would never work. But instead we put in a lot of time to do this complicated stuff, to do this whole setup and dealing with the leasing company, and we ended up leasing out 2 computers or whatever. So getting your fingers dirty is it's not too bad. It's not just getting your product. One thing is getting your product fast out there, but also actually go out and talk to some people instead of just sitting talking to each other, because we always agreed that this is perfect with this PC setup, but it wasn't. So don't be afraid to get out there and talk to your potential customers or partners in your whole ecosystem. They are not that scary.
And what inspires you most? You personally, why you are doing?
I think the challenge of seeing if it's actually possible to do this, to make this dream product that's in the end somewhere. That's what's most inspiring, and seeing that somebody are using whatever you're building. That's really nice. And when you get to a point where somebody knows your brand without you having to explain what it is, when you get there, that's really nice. So when you say, okay, I'm involved in this company called Just Eat. Oh yeah, I ordered my pizza there yesterday. Stuff like that is really nice. But you have to remember, before random people knowing it, you have to fight for a year or 2 years.
Thank you.